Hello, everyone. Moi Tov. I hope everyone had a wonderful first 2 days of Yontiv, whether you were here in Brookline or elsewhere. I hope you had a meaningful and inspiring Sidarim. And I hope we'll all have a wonderful Shabbos Chol Hamoed and the rest of the Yontiv. As we do every week, we take this moment to think about the entire Jewish people. And we count today as the 203rd day since October 7th. That is the number of days that those who are still being held against their will have been trapped in Gaza. We continue to daven for them and their families and the soldiers and all of Israel, and may Pesach bring redemption and salvation to the Jewish people. I also take this opportunity to encourage everyone to attend the CJP rally Sunday at 1:30 p.m. In support of university students, Jewish university students, and standing against the anti-Semitism and just hatred that we have seen exposed painfully over the last few weeks and days on different college campuses across the country. We are approaching Shabbos Chol Hamoed, which means we are in the middle of the holiday of Pesach. And if we could imagine ourselves a few thousand years ago when the Jews were leaving Egypt, that means we were in this dangerous 1 week period after the Jews had left Egypt, but before the splitting of the sea, when it was still possible for the Egyptians to claw and drag us back. Today would have been the third day after leaving Egypt, right around the time when Paro heard and decided to chase after us, and 3 days later he would catch up to us, and the events of the last days of Pesach, Kriyas Yam Suf, would occur. When the Jewish people left Egypt, so naturally they could have marched along the coast of the Mediterranean from Egypt into Israel, but instead Hashem led them not along the coast, but into the wilderness, into the desert, and that is why they would get pinned against the Yam Suf, the Red Sea. Why did Hashem do that? The Jews at the time must have been wondering, why didn't they take the shorter, quicker route? So the Torah itself explains this in the beginning of Parshas Beshalach. V'lo nacham Elokim derech eretz plishtim. Hashem did not lead them that way. Ki karovhu, even though it's closer. Why? Ki amar Elokim, because Hashem knew that if we would follow that path, the plishtim would come out and attack us, and then we would have been afraid, we would have given up, we would have fled and returned to Egypt. And thus he had to lead us in the longer, more difficult route into the wilderness. And of course, presumably one of Hashem's reasons to orchestrate the events in this way, so that there would be the miracle of the Kriyas Yam Suf. In other words, at the time, we didn't understand why this is what was best for us, to lead us into the wilderness, not along the sea. But even though we didn't understand it, Hashem really was thinking about us, what would be best for the Jewish people, and that is how he led us. And one lesson we can learn from this is that often we don't understand Hashem's plan, and often Hashem is performing for us acts of chesed, acts of care and concern. Hashem is protecting us. But since we don't know what would have been if things would have acted differently or occurred differently, therefore we don't realize the chesed and the kindnesses of Hashem. And we can learn a very important lesson from this. Similar to this, someone in the shul shared with me, I thought, a very interesting insight into the Haggadah, and appropriately the person does not wish his name to be mentioned, otherwise I would give the person credit. But we say in the Haggadah that this is the math part of the Haggadah, that however many plagues occurred in Egypt, there were 5 times as many plagues at the sea. There were 10 in Egypt, so 50 at the sea. And then the next opinion says, no, for every plague in Egypt, it was 4, so there was 40 in Egypt, 200 at the sea. The next person says there was 50 in Egypt and 250 at the sea. So what were these plagues? 50 plagues in Egypt, 250 at the sea. What were all of these miracles? So it could be that we knew them at the time, but we've just lost a tradition. We no longer have a record of all these different miracles. But it is also possible what the Medrash and what the Haggadah means to say is that there were so many miracles, we don't even realize how many miracles were occurring, because we don't realize everything that is happening behind the scenes. We don't realize what would have otherwise happened if Hashem didn't intervene. There were 250 miracles, and we don't even realize how much Hashem did for us. And perhaps that is even the basic meaning, the basic point of the Medrash, forgetting Egypt, but even in Mitzrayim, that one opinion says for every plague was really 4 plagues, for every plague was really 5 plagues, because maybe we only saw 1 plague, we only saw 1 miracle. But the miracles that Hashem was orchestrating behind the scenes is really 4 or even 5 times what we can know, what we can see, what we can appreciate. Hashem performs so many acts of kindness for us that we do not realize. And the lesson we can take from this is that to be a Baal Chesed means to be kind and to do things for others, even when others don't see. Even when there aren't outward other third-party observers to give us honor. But if we have a generous soul, we are kind even without recognition. And also, even for the person who's on the receiving end, if there's someone who we love and who we care about, we're willing to do something for them, even if they won't know, and so they won't say thank you or express appreciation. I believe actually last Erev Shabbos we shared a thought that sometimes Hashem wanted us to know the chesed He did for us, because Hashem wants us to know that He loves us, and therefore sometimes it's also important that the people who we are doing things for them because we love them, that they should know, and we should say out of love, I want you to know I did this for you because I love you, because I care about you, because I value you, you're important to me. But the opposite is also true. That we also have to be able and willing and want to do chesed even when it won't be seen or it won't be known, and the person won't say thank you, and others won't necessarily honor us for it. That is what happened right around these days, during the Chol HaMoed days, when Hashem led us in what seemed like the more difficult path, but was the path that was the best for us. And that is the lesson of the Haggadah, as this member of the community taught me, that there were so many miracles, 10, 40, 50 in Egypt, 50, 200, 250 in the sea. We may not have realized it, but they are occurring. We should emulate the ways of Hashem. We should all try to perform increased acts of chesed, even and especially when others do not see. And that should be a merit that Hashem should perform increased acts of chesed for us, great acts of chesed that we can see and thank Hashem for, and also know that there is so much chesed that He's doing for us behind the scenes. It should be a merit for the Geula Shlema, for the complete redemption for the Jewish people and the entire world. Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos, and Moed Tov to all.